What is up, Las Vegas and friends? We're back with the guest list podcast. I already butchered my name. That is hilarious. For those that are listening or watching on YouTube, please make sure that you hit subscribe and like. I have to get on you guys for this. I realized that it's going to be a pain in the ass, but now I get to be a little spammy McSpammerson. So also make sure you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of your favorite streaming platforms. And now on to the show. Today I have a woman who is from France, at the hometown in Kansas City, and she has quite a long list of things that she's involved with. I'm going to go over a few of them. She is a life balance coach. She is a podcast host of Today Over Tea. She is a world champion ballroom dancer, and she is a traveler and has her own YouTube channel called Love to Voyage. So without further ado, Miss Christine Barr.
Hello, how are you?
I'm excited we finally get to do this. We've been talking about it for so long.
I feel like it's the preparation leading up to it has been amazing, and you've been awesome with communication, and the follow through is just great. So I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Appreciate that. Also, tell your dad I said hello.
I will. That's right, because that's how we connected, was through him.
Yeah, we actually connected right when I started the podcast. This had to be probably 3 months ago. Her father had messaged me on Facebook and really liked what I was doing, and he actually gave me a lot of pointer tips to, not wear a black shirt with a black background. I was making
floating head.
The floating head. I was making all of the visual mistakes, and he helped me out with that.
That's awesome.
So that was awesome.
Yeah, and then he told me about you and was like, yeah, you've got to connect with this guy, Jake. He just started his podcast, and he's doing really great and has all these downloads, and, you should connect with him since you're doing yours. And yeah, right away, I just had a good energy about it, and you were fantastic. We are both in the same generation, and
yes.
Started using GIFs and everything, and I was like, I can roll with this guy.
If you find someone who uses GIFs, and even more so more GIFs than memes, that's a set match, because sometimes it's tough to express yourself through memes. It just doesn't hit it off in the head.
Right.
You need the actual movements to it.
Totally.
Cool. So let's start up from the top, because I would love to do a reverse Benjamin Button type thing, but there's so much to go over. So let's just give a little context for all of the listeners and a little description of who Christine Barr is.
Amazing. Yeah. Life of the entrepreneur. Always, never a dull moment, I would like to say. I grew up I was born in France, as you said, and moved to the United States when I was about 2. So that's why I don't have the cool accent like my dad. But we moved to Kansas. That's where my mom was from. And my dad owned a dance studio for like 15 years, starting, I think I was like 10 when he opened it. And it was amazing. I mean, like the best life you can think of to grow up in, just a safe space to express myself, learning skills. I was very shy growing up, and I didn't really like to be, I'm definitely was not the person I am today.
I was going to say, I would never have expected that. I would have never expected that.
Not at all. I didn't want to be out in public. I didn't want to public speak. I didn't want to dance. I didn't want to do anything. And so I credit dance for giving me that extrovert approach to life now, because it opened up every door I've been able to walk through is because of dance, which is amazing. So before I went away, I graduated from high school, and before I went away to college, my dad said, you have to do at least one dance competition with me. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And then he's like, no, I promise you'll love it. And he was right. And I loved the adrenaline of it. I actually loved performing more than competing, but I was able to channel that performance through the competitions, because there were so many of them. And then eventually he started doing world championship competitions with his students, and he was able to win certain titles with them. And he said, if I can win with them, I can win with you. So, right? No pressure. Like, I was like, okay.
I was about to say, is that a compliment or a little bit of tough love that's just kind of mingled in there?
I don't know. I was like, I don't know what that means. But I was like 21 at the time, and we went to the World Championships. Was being held in Bermuda. Tough life. I took one for the team, and we did the island life and went over there, and we gave ourselves 2 chances to compete in ballroom dancing. You have smooth dances, which is like waltz, tango, foxtrot, Viennese waltz, and then you have rhythm dances, which is cha-cha, rumba, swing, bolero, mambo, and that was my wheelhouse. I was like, I want to move. I love, the fast stuff. But we actually got second in the smooth. And
Wow.
that was before we did the rhythm, and he was all nervous, like, oh, we have to do one because we have to say that we became world champions. And rhythm was just my thing. I just felt it. And so, yeah. So, I mean, the 3 months leading up to that of the intense training was insane. My dad's like my best friend, and him being my coach as well was just not a good match for us. But clearly he's a good coach and got the job done, but let me tell you, I was glad when that time was over, for sure. And then, and then we became the first ever father-daughter to become world champion.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It was amazing. And that was like the start of just realizing that I can do so many different things in life and how many doors it could open. And I was very reluctant because I was like, I don't care. This is not going to matter to me. And my dad's like, I promise this is going to mean a lot to you. You just don't know it yet. And, like most parents, they're usually right, and we thank them later. And so, yeah, it's been really awesome. And then I went on to California because my brother is an actor and moved to California at 17. And so I followed him out there. I was like, what am I doing here, Tried to start doing singing, dancing, all that stuff. And I'm not going to paint a pretty picture here. Like, California just hit me rock hard.
It's tough. I know a bunch of people who've gone out there and tried to survive. And sometimes you get locked up in, a dead-end job, but you're out in LA, so you feel like you're doing something even though you're not. And then eventually
Totally.
just pack up and go home.
Yeah, I mean, it drained me emotionally, financially. I tried to find a community of people. It just wasn't my scene. And my brother loves it out there. That's totally his vibe. But I just didn't feel right, And so, so I ended up going back to Kansas City for a little while and kind of, grounding myself again and going back to my community. And I found a love for being behind the scenes of like public relations and social media marketing, and all of that was just booming at that time. And I just loved it. And so I started my own company in 2014 and started doing public relations and social media and all this stuff. And I took a few classes. I actually went to school for interior design, side note.
What school did you go to?
I was in Kansas City. So I went to Kansas State University for a little while and then finished up. When I started dancing heavily, I had to switch my focus. So I went to Johnson County Community College to finish up. But then I started venturing I was doing so much behind the scenes PR. Like, I was like helping start my brother's career, manage him and stuff. And I won't take any credit for what he has now, but I was just trying to be there for him and just trying to learn on the job. And, everything that we did with my dad in the studio with performing arts and everything. Like, I just felt like I had so much real life experience that I basically created a position for myself in the ballroom dance industry, where it was all of these competitions were competing against each other to get people to come to their events, and they didn't know how to market themselves. So I put them all on Facebook and Instagram and, started doing a lot of their promotional videos and things like that. And I mean, I was able to pick any competition I wanted to go to and be like, okay, I'm going to now go to Hawaii because this one's in Hawaii, and I'm going to go to Florida and go to this one over here. And it was amazing. And they were so thankful because they needed to be put on the map. And I was like, just feeling my way through it. Like, where can I go next? You know what I mean? Like, who can I help and help you stand out?
That's the fun road of entrepreneurship. There's so many different opportunities that pop up. And then along the way, when you learn new skills and different kinds of knowledge, you apply those on top of each other.
Absolutely.
And you create your own craft specifically.
Totally. So, so it was a long, really nice run. I ran that company and developed it from public relations to social media marketing to event planning, because eventually I was starting to like my dad started organizing a dance competition in 2016, and I was like, cool, like I'll be a part of the team that's helping to like really bring this vision to life. And that I was like, wow, I can do so many more things now. Like, it was so great. I was incorporating so many aspects of things I had learned over the last 10 years of my life, and it was just amazing. And then I met the love of my life, who's amazing and behind the camera right now taking pictures of us. But yeah, and that just shifted, as people say, when just something comes in and rocks your world. Like, that's exactly what he did in the best way. But just showed me also who I was, because I think growing up in the world that I did, with my dad being so entrepreneurial and just, we have this cliche phrase, fake it till you make it, and as wonderful as that sounds to make things happen, I got to a place where I was like, wow, I just don't want to fake it anymore. I want to like own something, and I want it to be like I'm not figuring it out along the way. And I just didn't feel like I was solid in myself at that point. And at that point I was probably maybe 27, 20.
Yeah, you're itching. You're approaching the end of adolescence, and been out of college about 5 years. You've gone past that quarter life crisis that everyone happens to everyone right out of college, kind of trying to figure out what you want to do. And even if you're going to use your college major, that's something that I didn't end up using, and a lot of my other friends. So you're like, all right, I'm a lady boss now.
Totally. And I felt like also when I met him, I always said to myself, I can't wait. I wasn't someone that was in a lot of relationships because I was so focused on my career, and I kind of knew what I wanted. So like I would meet a guy and I'm like, okay, like it was fun for a minute. And then I was like, he won't fit in with my lifestyle. That was kind of my mantra for a while. And then when I met him, I was like, his name is Noel, just so we give him some random person. He's amazing, and he's cultural. Like, he's from Haiti, so we both speak French, and he's a dancer as well, but in a different dance community. And he's so kind and loyal, and the way that he grew up was so much the way I grew up and the way we think. Like, we know how to speak to people, and it was just, there's this kindness there. And he was so much my balance, because I'm just as you can tell, and he's just this peaceful, really nice compliment to help ground me. And I just realized, wow, like I can do all the things I want to do, but it doesn't have to be so difficult, and it can be more efficient. And he was showing me, like, you can go straight to the path instead of winding around it, It opened my eyes to a lot of different things, and it was really awesome. So the first thing we did together was we started an event in Las Vegas called Latin Fix. And it was the first event that did salsa, bachata, kizomba, and zouk, all 4 styles. And we hosted one every month, sometimes even twice a month. And we had theme nights, and we had awesome performances, guest DJs. And it was like our baby. Like, it was the coolest thing. And I was like, this is so fun. And there's no stress around it. And we linked up with an awesome venue, which was Eclipse Theaters. And it was just beautiful.
Yeah, that's right down the street here.
I love it. And yeah, I mean, the dancers were thrilled to be connected to such a great venue. The venue was happy to have dancers in there. Like, everything was a match. And yeah, so we just started doing that. And as things went on, we were going and going and going. But then eventually I started developing more about myself. And this is kind of like the 2020s self-reflection journey we're all talking about. It happened for me, about a year earlier. And I was just like, whoa, what is happening? Like, I started getting just anxiety and like mild depression and just things like, and I was like, what is wrong with me? I was so excited for a relationship. I finally got my relationship. I was happy. What is going on? And I think there was this inner work that I hadn't done, that for so many years I had pushed away. And I was trying to figure out who I was. I had always been told, you're a dancer, you're Louis' daughter, you're Alex's sister, you're a world champion, you're this, you're that. And I created a company and all these things, but it was so, you can get caught up in the entrepreneurial lifestyle and you forget who you are.
You spread yourself too thin at times too. Yeah, that's a trouble that a lot of us face over time, because you're just so involved with everything, and like we said before, you learned all of these different skills, and you just want to apply it everywhere because you think you could fix so many different problems in the world. And that's kind of something that millennials are kind of plagued by too, right? We're sitting here trying to just figure out the world and fix everything. So it becomes so consuming.
It does. And I keep saying, because now we have Gen Z, and I think we even have a generation after that as well. And I feel like the millennials were really the ones that, like, we started, with new technology. Like, I didn't have a cell phone till I was like 15 or 16. My brother got one when he was like 10.
Yeah, I think I was in like 8th grade when I first got one.
And so we didn't grow up with Facebook. I didn't have a Facebook that I had to check every 5 seconds and update. So we grew up like adapting to what was happening, and we all grabbed onto it so quickly, but it almost was like a little bit detrimental, I feel like, to our adulthood, because we were being told kind of what we were supposed to be by media. And that's kind of weird if you think about it.
Yeah,
you know?
our generation sees right through the media. That's why podcasting is becoming so popular. And even before that, independent journalism. And even before that was internet blogging, like Zanga and different blogs.
I had a Zanga. Yes.
Zanga, Tumblr. Like those were the original independent journalistic doings of millennials. Because we saw that the TV was skewed. That people have agendas behind what's going on there. And even now to this day in 2020, that's just exacerbated on enormous levels. Everyone sees right through it. And so
I totally agree.
That's why everyone's coming to podcasts.
Yeah, which is amazing. And so that led to, because being a millennial, I felt like we just, like we were drawn by the media, but like you said, we see right through it. But there was no emphasis put on mental health or taking care of yourself or self-care or any of that. And trying to do, it was just 24/7 entrepreneur, boss lady, boss guy, like get it done. And there's no room for personal growth in that space, because you are just available 24/7. You are, putting yourself out there, and like you said, you just run dry after a while. You cannot, that's not a sustainable way of living. So I finally hit a wall, and thank this amazing man that was just there to support me the entire way, because I couldn't wait to be with someone like that. And I was like, I'm going to be awesome, and I'm going to be such a great, girlfriend, fiance, wife, all of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I? I'm depressed and I'm getting anxious. This is terrible. I wouldn't want to be with me. Like, this sucks. But he understood what I was going through, and we talked about it, and he knew how I grew up, and the craziness that I had been through and how I was trying to find myself. And he was so patient. And so finally it was through podcasting that I really that was the start of my journey. Because I felt like I was in an industry where I couldn't speak my mind. I couldn't.
Yeah, because you're behind the scenes too.
Well, I was, but even in ballroom dancing, as expressive as it is, I had so many opinions about the way things were going and the political side of things, and just all of these. It's a very vain industry, and it's very just about look at me kind of thing. And that was very hard for me to accept after a certain point. As beautiful as ballroom dancing is, and it brought me all of these things, and it's an incredible industry, there were parts of it that weren't vibing with who I was becoming as an adult. And I was trying to figure out why, because it didn't make sense to me. This is all I ever knew. And so that, my relationship with my dad, because he was so into dancing, just like we had to kind of reevaluate that, and there were some instances that happened in life that kind of guided us through that. And podcasting came along. I actually had the idea for my podcast, Today Over Tea, 3 years before I even started it.
Everyone holds off for so long.
And it's divine timing. That's all I can say. But I was going to do it with 2 other guys who were also incredible in their fields, one in the tech world and one in the religion, education world. And all 3 of us were excited, but we went off on our own journeys. We were successful in that. And I still had the domains. I thought it was a great name. And I was like, I got to do something with this. So I developed this idea with Noel. He owns a digital media business, so photography and videography. So,
yeah, I did see the name's Centertainment One card.
Yeah, exactly. So that was easy. He was the whole back end of things he took care of, and he allowed me to just be me on camera. And I could express myself, and all I had to do was my own hair and makeup and dress and discuss my topics, but I didn't have to worry about all the logistics, because as an entrepreneur, which I'm sure you can relate, we do everything.
Yep.
That's it. You're the camera person, you're the trash person, you're the
You're the marketer, the scheduler, the psychologist for yourself and for other people. You're
the AD, you get the snacks, everything. And it's exhausting because you can't really focus on your craft when you are playing every part of the team. And so for him to be able to take that weight off of me was such a relief. And I was like, wow, I have a teammate that I can actually rely on. And he's making me stronger by allowing me to do what I do best, put everyone in the right place. And so we arranged 10 episodes and wanted to put them out kind of like Netflix, the whole binge watching concept that's like big right now. And I just wrote down all the topics I wanted to talk about, from like, sexuality, racism, roles in society, nutrition, everything, holistic medicine versus Western medicine. We just kind of hit all the heavy topics that I thought people needed to talk about because conversations were not happening.
Yeah, people are starved. And something that you see is that the world that we live in today, it's kind of segmented into like 6 to 30-second clips.
Yeah.
And so everyone's attention span is shrinking based off of the scroll features. But what you see now with podcasting is people's attention is actually much larger than you think if they're interested. People are watching 5-hour Joe Rogan podcasts, which I just did the other day. People, are kind of getting away from Netflix and that binge model, and they want to hear just authentic conversation. And I think this has also been kind of emphasized by the polarization of what Trump's kind of done with segmenting politics and identity politics and some other things that kind of like have made the middle like a desolate land. Now it's just like the right versus the left, or up or down, or however you view it. So just normal conversations like this is just becoming obsolete at times for the last like 10 years. And now it's starting to come back together. People have been able to kind of put it into a little bit more of the mainstream. Like, are you familiar with like the intellectual dark web? Like those people, like Dave Rubin and the Weinstein brothers and Joe Rogan, they brought it back.
Right.
And so now you can take that model and you can replicate it on a smaller, like nuanced scale.
I agree. Yeah. And I like that you brought that up, because especially in our country right now, when everything feels so divided, I feel like we were having a lot of filler conversations is what I like to call them. And, how's the weather? How are you doing?
I hate it.
I can't stand conversations like that. It doesn't go anywhere. And it's conversations you have over and over, even with the same people, sometimes even members of your family. And I think people were doing that because it's a defense mechanism in order to not talk about something that is important, because you feel like you're going to be judged by that person, or they're going to try to convince you of their views. And that's terrible, because most people don't want to get into a conversation with anyone, even if they feel like they're on the same side, because they're like, we're just going to argue, and that's why these conversations were not, and still are not, happening to the level they should be. And now we start talking more about mental health. And now we're hitting a wave of energetic and vibrational energy and all of these things that people are like, oh, wow, like we don't have to run ourselves into the ground. Like we can take breaks. We don't have to be available to people 24/7. It's okay to have self-care days. Like that's become now a new wave of social media as well, like this movement that people are doing. And that just hit me so hard, because I was like, wow, that's not what I was raised in. I was raised in go, 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 go. And you get it done no matter what cost, And luckily I was able to absorb a lot of that consequential cost of whether I didn't get enough sleep or whatever. But once you get, I just hit 30, like you look at life differently, and I can't imagine when I'm 40 and 50 and all of that. And I was like, is this how I want to be for the rest of my life? And I started seeing people that had a similar lifestyle to me that were 40s and 50s. And I was like, wow, I don't want your life. And if I don't want your life at 40 and 50, I don't want your life at 30.
Yeah.
So we need to pivot and make a major change right now, because otherwise I'm going to solidify this and I won't be able to, make the changes I need to.
The awareness of making a pivot is something that is tough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You see that's something that's plagued kind of the older generations, is staying at that dead end job for 10 or 15 years, and then they end up getting fired, and they're like, why? And
what do I do?
Yeah, you've just been an employee. You didn't really have purpose for the company. You're somebody who could be replaceable. And a lot of people are afraid to make those pivots, because sometimes it results in having to start all over.
Oh, it's uncomfortable.
Or build things from the ground up, and you're just like, wow, I'm mentally exhausted. I've put all of this work into you know, I don't know, being a UPS driver and working your way up to becoming a manager. And you're like, now I have to start all the way at the bottom again. But sometimes when you pivot and you start at the bottom, you're building your own house this time. You're not building anybody else's house.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm seeing that with the pandemic because I quickly realized, because now after putting out these 10 episodes and having a lot of success with them, like now we're on like episode 15, 16, and we're just continuing rolling with it. But I'm becoming so much more self-aware of the people around me and what they're talking about and what they're doing. And I'm seeing a generational gap major during this pandemic with our parents' generation, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I can't make money the way I used to, or this is not working and I don't know what I'm going to do. And everything they've ever known that they've built for the last 10, 20 years doesn't exist right now, you know? And maybe if it comes back after the pandemic, fine. But right now they're in this wave of unknown that's so scary. And all of our entrepreneur friends that we talk to, I mean, I don't even think not one that we've talked to has said, I'm actually really thriving in this time. And they're like, I don't want to tell anyone else that, but we can talk about it amongst us, because they are nervous to tell people that they're actually doing well. Because you're in a pandemic, you should be struggling, you should be depressed and anxious. And now don't get me wrong, we are all of those things, but we are used to pivoting. We're entrepreneurs. This is just another pivot for us. It's just bigger. You know, we had to cancel our whole year of trips, and we, you know, got rid of our apartment because our lease was up. So now we don't have a home. But these are all things we've dealt with as digital nomads and all of these things. That's kind of the millennial lifestyle in a sense. So this was no different. But now the whole world stopped. So our phones weren't ringing, and we didn't have to answer to anyone, and the emails stopped. And I was like, oh my gosh, you mean I actually have time to focus on meditation and rest and our relationship and planning our wedding that we had put on hold for a year and a half because we were building our businesses? You know, like all of these things that I'm like, why do we not prioritize those self-care things as entrepreneurs? We prioritize what can make us money, but then isn't the money supposed to help us go on vacation or do, you know, like.
Yeah, it's just like you're supposed to live to work, not work to live.
Right.
Or the other way around.
Totally, yeah. And so the idea is that if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, right? And we do love what we do. So we are excited about, let's, you know, get these podcasts together. Let's do this video. Let's do this. But then you start, you know, working with certain clients and you're like, I'm still working on this project, you know, and things start to drag you down little by little, but you brush it off because you're like, I'm still doing what I love. But slowly that starts to penetrate you more and more and deeper. And then you get lost. You just get so lost. So this pandemic stopped everything. And all of our entrepreneur friends were like, wow, we actually have time to do stuff. And we can reflect and we can make our next move that is actually planned and not just a reaction of hitting something else. Because that's what we were becoming very reactive instead of proactive.
Yes, I like that.
Right? And that was so, like, that's not how we are. We're trying to create a life by design. So if we want to do that, we have to be proactive and actually go and get what we want and be strategic about it. But if you're just being reactive to, I met this person and then they did something and then so I decided to do something with them and now I'm distracted from this because I can't do this project, and you know the drill. It just goes on and on and on. Now it's like 6 months down the road and you're like, what happened to that life you were building? It's not there.
Yeah, it's just it's just like in the road of entrepreneurship before the pandemic, it's a race against time for the majority of the time. How many times have you asked yourself, like, man, I wish there were 30 hours in a day.
Totally.
I wish there were 35 hours, or why can't I just sleep 4 hours a day and be completely functional? Right. But now time stopped.
Yeah, and you have all the time in the world. So for people who say, I wish I had more time, I'm like, if you're not getting stuff done in this time and you're bored or you don't know what to do with your time, then clearly you don't wish you had more time because you don't even know what you wanted to do with it if you had it.
Yep.
You know?
The big key that I tried to focus on during this pandemic was pattern recognition. I think that was like, that's what I see as like the next evolution to becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like entrepreneurs, I would just say by the way that we live, usually you're problem solvers, right? You see a problem and you're like, I want to make it better. I want to optimize it. I want to make money off of this. But now the world is changing in front of us, and you know, there's going to be a lot more working from home. Things are going digital. So you need to recognize these patterns to get ahead of everyone.
Absolutely.
And everyone's already at a standstill. So you're already ahead of the majority of the people.
Yeah.
But if you could get that next level up to recognize what's going to come,
Absolutely.
that's how we're going to succeed moving on forward. And that's something, go back to podcasting, it's still so new. People are like, oh, the market's saturated already. But you realize like less than 50% of the population even listens to podcasts and all these different metrics. And people are starting to translate that over to, different social media as people migrated over to TikTok really fast, which was kind of had a skew and its own like political thing behind it as well. But people recognize like, oh my God, I saw what happened with Instagram and Facebook and all these. I need to hop on this immediately and then become very creative over the time.
Yeah, definitely. No, I totally agree. And my dad's been saying like everything's in slow motion right now. So any entrepreneur that is, like you said, jumping on what's happening and where the world's gonna be, like you're already gonna be ahead of the game. But that's not stopped us from still going at the same pace. And I think as an entrepreneur, you can never really slow down too much because we thrive on movement, especially as dancers, right? We thrive on movement. We thrive on excitement and like new projects and keeping motivated. But we have given ourselves more time, and we've given ourselves like, oh, let's go visit some family. Let's drive. If that's all we can do, we can't go to Europe right now, which was our plan. So let's drive to the middle of the United States and go see some family and spend some time with them and work on our businesses from home and build things. And by January 1, we have certain goals we're hidden to accomplish. And if you stay focused, but allow yourself the time, I'm taking a manifestation course right now. I am meditating more. I am sleeping. Certain things that I'm doing better with even my nutritional schedule, because I would sometimes skip a meal if I had things to do in meetings, and that's terrible. Especially for me, I don't have what to skip. I can't afford that. So, I'm really hoping that, especially for us, because I can only speak, for myself, but that I don't want to go back to the way it was. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I can't wait till we're back to normal. I'm like, if that was normal for you and that was enjoyable, then we're not going to be living in the same world, because I want progress. I want us to go into a new world with more open-mindedness, with more conversations that mean something, not filler conversations, with more focus on your mental health. I think we should all have some sort of life coach or therapist or something in our life that is helping us to guide us to the next step, instead of us all just thinking we can figure it out on our own. Like, we need to learn from each other, because that's how we're all going to move faster.
Yes. I've since this pandemic started, I have seen a lot of variation in the coachings that have popped up. I had a man on here earlier. His name's James Silvis. He's a mindset specialist. Yours is life coaching. I've seen some other variations of personal coaching, and there's like a few other ones out there outside of the original, just like health and fitness coaching, which was like the first. So what would life coaching be in a nutshell?
So for me personally, so I'm a Libra. And when I was in that little time in Los Angeles and I just hit a rock bottom, I found being a Libra was very important for me to know, because I require balance in my life. And I think everybody does, because they say life's all about balance. But for me specifically, I'm very indecisive. I couldn't figure out what my next move was. I was just running in circles. And I felt like that's what I needed, was to find this healthy balance in my life. And so that's why I kind of coined this little life balance coach term instead of just a life coach. But to me, essentially, it is about creating, figuring out what it is that you want to do in your life. And when you figure out what you want to do, then you can work towards it. I think so many people, if you ask them, what would you do in a day if your only job was to just be happy? Nobody would know. I think a lot of people would not know how to answer that, right? Because that's not what they're programmed to do. They're programmed to go to work or to make money or to take care of their family or
routine.
Whatever. That's it. And so we have these societal norms, like, oh, I'm busy. You're busy too. Like, I'm busier than you. You should see my schedule. It's like it's become like a who's busier contest. And it's like, is that really what we should be excited about? We should be saying, no, I actually have a really good balance going right now. And I've got self-care days and I'm doing, So long story short, if you figure out what it is that you want to do in your life, then what you do is you gain clarity. right? You have to clean out the clutter, and that can be both physical and mental. So you see clutter in your life, if your house is a mess, if your car is a mess, if everything, like, you need to start clearing out that clutter. And mentally, you need to get rid of the thoughts that are not helping you get to the next place, right? That are not helping manifest the things that you want to do in life. And once you start doing those things, I mean, you will see things change. But I always talk about small changes with consistency is what creates the sustainability, because I'm all about sustainable living. And most people think of sustainable living as like, oh, like green products and all that stuff, which I love. I'm all about that too. We've already talked about when we get older, we want to have grow our own food in the backyard and all that stuff. But sustainable living also means just being able to sustain a lifestyle for a long period of time. And we can't do that if we're burning the candle at both ends.
Yep. So
you just can't.
Yeah, sustainability is, there's a few metrics to it: energy levels, your finances, your social relationships.
Yeah.
Because there are times where, you get buried in your work when you're building something and you don't see people for like a month.
Yep.
And you're like, holy shit, it's October already?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? And then you kind of isolate yourself because you're like, wow, if I haven't seen them for a month, then another month passes by and you're just like, well, I guess that relationship's done and over with. And I see a lot of my friends kind of slide into like a short-term depression because of it, because they're just like so focused on their work.
That's it. And you're intentionally doing something to better yourself. That's why you're putting the work in, but it's bringing on anxiety, frustration, depression. And you're like, wait, this is backwards. How did that happen? Right? So that's why the balance is necessary, because just as much as you work, take a day and go to the beach. Take a day and go for a walk, take a bath, right? Read a book, whatever it is that you feel is going to help you. Meditate, all of those things. I think people get scared of the word meditate. It's because they're like, oh, that's a lot of work. I can't clear my mind. And I was the first person to say that. I'm not someone who has a clear mind, trust me. But there are so many versions of meditation, and you can listen to an audio and you can do all of these things. And there's so many ways. You have to find what works for you. And I think that's the whole life by design thing. My mom and I don't talk about her a lot because we're not in a very similar energetic vibration. She is the 9 to 5, works, a regular society job. She's a teacher. She's so brilliant. This woman has so many skills and has like 2 master's degrees and everything, but she's a realist. So for her, if this is the way that, if Dr. Fauci says that we have to wear a mask, we wear a mask, right? And I'm not against the masks, but I'm just saying that's just the example that we're using right now, right? And so that's not a bad thing. That's most of society. But I've seen that you can still follow the rules in a sense, be a part of society, but still create your own destiny. And my mom is starting to open her eyes to some of that kind of stuff, which is really cool, because now we're having real conversations that matter. And she's the one that taught me all of the, don't cross the street without looking both ways, and make sure you wash your hands here and do this. And so she taught me the foundations of life. But now I'm trying to help her to get out of just that, this is where it ends and you can do more, And it's so much more sustainable because you're fulfilling yourself with love and joy and gratitude of things that you love to do. And that's bringing on more of those things, because like attracts like. And the more you put out of good, the more comes back to you. And so if you're stressed and anxious and tired, what do you think you're going to get back?
Yep, same energy levels.
I mean, it's like gravity. Even if you don't believe in the law, it doesn't stop working. You will still get pulled down to the ground. So the law of attraction is exactly that. It works regardless of whether you believe in it or not. And so that's
So coaching, for example, I think when people think of like, oh, I have a coach, sometimes there's like a negative view that's casted on it, because it's like, oh, maybe you don't feel highly of yourself. Maybe you're not confident, or you have to go reach out for help, like you weak pawn, you little puny man or woman, or whatever the case
Especially
is.
Men.
Yeah.
They get that stigma. I can't stand that. That's a great point in life coaching. My brother and I were just talking about this the other day. We believe that, and a lot of people that I talk to believe that everyone at this point should have either a therapist or a life coach. And we discovered something, he discovered it, that there is a difference. And what we found through someone else telling us this is that for the most part, therapy is like if you have a mental illness, right? So maybe you're bipolar, maybe you're dealing with depression, maybe you're dealing with, loss of a loved one.
Yeah, some PTSD,
all of that stuff, veterans, or deaths or, miscarriage. Oh my God, there's so many places we can go with that. That's more therapy because you're going through something and you're dealing with something and you're trying to find the root cause so that you can resolve it, come to terms with it, and not let it affect your future. But life coaching is different. Life coaching, most people, even entrepreneurs that we think, oh my gosh, we go through ups and downs, we're so high and low, we're manic, we're this. Most of us are not. Life coaching is actually just a guide. It's a mentor. And I think everybody needs a good mentor in their life. And so that stigma of, oh, you need a life coach, so that means that you're not an expert at what you do, or really, you need someone to help you out? Like, aren't you an adult, right? That has to go away very quickly because I can't stand that. I think that that is such a weak response to someone who probably needs more help than you do. You know what I mean? That they're just pointing fingers at their own problems and they're deflecting on you. And so don't take when people say something like that seriously to anyone who's listening, because that is just like, that's their own issue that they need to deal with. Life coaching is something that can help you to just get your thoughts in order and create some clarity. When you feel like you have so much coming at you and you just can't focus, I have days where I am super organized, I'm productive, everything's going my way, like all my appointments are on time, everything's working. And then 2 days later, I can have, when I say the worst day, my worst day is probably someone's best day. You know what I mean? So I also have to put that into perspective. But in a sense of just like, I woke up late, nothing's happening, that the way it should. I'm on customer service hold for 30, 45 minutes longer than I want it to be. That check didn't come in, whatever it can be. I missed a red lights or
it's a snowball effect.
It's
really
a
quick.
snowball effect. And if that first thing, if you don't change, like just take 20 minutes and just change your energetic vibration and just go into a separate space and just be like, let me just sit down for a minute and breathe, or go on a walk or meditate and not think about anything, then you're going to continue to have those things happen in your day. And that day turns into days, it turns into weeks, months, and years. And all of a sudden you have a terrible year, right? Mm-hmm. And so the whole 2020 year sucks. Like, we were on board for a minute and we were like, yeah, this is not good. But once we realized and got over the fact that all of our trips were canceled and we didn't have a place to live, and then we got on our feet and we were like, you know what? No, this is exactly what we asked the universe for this, and this is how it decided to give it to us. We asked for time, it's giving us time. We asked for, opportunities to build our business, it's giving us that. We asked for money, we're getting unemployment. Who thought we were all going to be on unemployment? That's insane, right? So be careful what you wish for, because the universe is going to deliver it to you in a different way that you may think, but it's still delivering it to you.
It is very true at the end of the day.
Right?
Yeah.
But it may not be, so you have to be flexible with your methods of receiving what you want, So if you're going to manifest something even as small as like, a smoothie or a bottle of water, right? Oh, but I want it to come from this person. You can't be that specific. You got to if you want the bottle of water, you have to be flexible with however the universe is going to deliver that to you, and you'll get it.
We have to adapt to things that surround us, especially in today's world, which is like how technology evolves and how people evolve and how thinking evolves.
Yeah.
So I did like that you said that everybody should have a coach or therapist. I think having a third party listener is very important, because we become so secluded to our own friend groups, right? That's like Drake's famous song, "No New Friends, No New Friends." Yep. It's almost toxic though in the way that you say it.
It is.
Because you're saying like you're not allowing anyone in there, so you're closed-minded.
Right.
And
so there's no new opinions around you. Or, for one thing, my brother and I have been doing this recently, I'm venting to him. And, about just certain things that are happening. And he's like, yeah, like our relationship has changed because now all of a sudden, almost I'm becoming your life coach. And he's like, but I don't want to always hear about the things that are going wrong. Sometimes I want to hear about the things that are going right. And I just didn't realize that was happening. So he brings it to my attention very quickly. But again, that's just communication. We have that relationship. So many people would not do that. And they would be a sounding board for some of their family members. And then they'd get tired of it. And they're like, now there's a fight going on, But if you address it and you don't constantly use your family or your friends as your therapist or your life coach, and you have someone outside that's just guiding you through, that you can just call up and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Obviously I run things by my fiance first. But he doesn't always need to be the sounding board for me either, because sometimes he has his own things he's going through, and as a couple, we know what we should be discussing with each other and what we shouldn't,
Compassion fatigue is real.
Yeah.
Very real.
Absolutely.
And you turn your friends get turned off by it. And you can see immediately once you start venting to them, they start looking somewhere else or getting on their phone. And you're just like, wow, they're just a soundboard at this point, like you say.
That's it. And it becomes, and that is what kills relationships right there. So we learned that very early on. We're 4 years in now. And we learned that that's not the way to go, because if we are constantly using each other, yes, we want to use each other as support and we're a team and power couple and all of those cliches. But at the end of the day, if your partner is exhausted by you, that's not going to last long.
It's very true.
It's just not.
So when you take in clients, oftentimes do they come to you with negative news? Is it positive news, or is it something that you work out problems with them and they say like, oh, I have an idea, and this is how I come there, and you like kind of critique in an objective manner? Or is it more inclusive of people's emotions and subjectivity?
Yeah, I think a big thing is how you feel. I think we put a negative stigma on emotions and feelings, especially for women. Men are supposed to be these strong, I don't show emotion kind of thing. Also, I think that's bullshit. Sorry, can we say that?
Speak your mind.
Men need to be more vulnerable and need to be more open, especially if they're in a relationship with another woman, or with a woman, not another woman. It's weird to say that. But you know what I'm saying? Now we have, even homosexual relationships, men, women, all of that. But I think specifically, men are always like, oh my gosh, my woman always wants to talk. And always like, yeah, we want to talk. Yeah, that's how it goes. And we're not going to hide that anymore. It can't be like, oh, I'm not going to bother my husband. And, he just got home from work. That was my grandparents' mentality. My husband just got home from work and now he's busy and he's been providing for our family. So I'm not going to bother him with my problems. I'm like, so you're just going to stuff it all up inside? And you're just supposed to make him dinner? And that's, no. Millennial women we don't deal with that anymore.
It's so true.
You know what I'm saying? That's so old school. But and then women, we are emotional. We have that time of the month. It happens. You don't need to point it out. It is what it is, and we deal with it. We get pregnant. We have hormonal changes. All of these things. And I used to think that was terrible for being a woman. I didn't grow up that way. I was rock solid. I was more like a man. I was like, I'm not a drama queen. I'm not going to be needy or pushy or whatever. And then as I turned, all of these things started happening when I started getting that anxiety. And I became a real woman. And I was like, oh, shit, this is not good. Yeah. And it's not good because society put that in my head that women are annoying when they're that way. They're needy. They're anxious driven. Men don't want a woman like that. And I'm like, all of a sudden, my whole idea has switched around that, So when I help a client, they come in, we start from where they're at. Because I always say I can help you no matter whatever your starting point is. And so where are you? What are you? There's 3 pillars of life: relationships, whether it's a spouse, family, friends; career, whether you're an entrepreneur, 9-to-5er, trying to build a business, getting a promotion; and your health and wellness. So mental health and physical health. And of those 3 pillars, which is the one that you feel needs the most work? We start there. Then we make a happiness list. What would make you happy right now? A trip to Bali, quitting your job, having a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever. Start small. Maybe you just want to eat a cookie. I don't know. What would make you happy right now? I don't think a lot of people know the answer to that. And then we dive into all of the things in their life that they're giving their time to that's not facilitating that happiness list.
There's the key right there.
I mean, that's it. Because, so you're telling me you're over here spending time with a friend who's got a lot of toxic energy when you just told me you're looking for more peace in your life? Why is this friend still here? Well, we've been friends for so long. And they will come up with every excuse in the book to justify their actions. But you're like, you just told me you wanted this life. You understand that you can't have that and this.
Yeah, and so without you, it would be tough for them to cut that cord or
it's
to
hard.
get that
You
like
have
mental
to,
strength.
Yeah, the reflectiveness of like just being the mirror for someone, but also that extra push. In order to have something, you have to give up something. That's what some people say. I don't believe that you have to give up something that you want in order to get something that you want. Usually the thing you're giving up is something you think you want, but it's not what you really want. Because otherwise, if you wanted it, then you would already have everything that you wanted.
That's, yeah.
Right?
It's a little mind-blowing right there.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you had what you already wanted, then why would you be craving a new life or something different? Clearly, there's some things in your life that are sucking the life out of you and that are, cluttering up your thought process, and you're not manifesting those things. Or, I'm sorry, you are manifesting those things, but that's not what you want to be manifesting. So you have to look at those things, and it's going to be uncomfortable and vulnerable, and you're going to have real conversations with people that maybe should have limited access to you. And maybe you do quit your job, and that has to be a conversation with your boss, or you want a promotion, or you have to start and learn a new skill. That's uncomfortable, right? So all of these things, when you make a change, it's going to be uncomfortable. But the idea is that it's worth it because you're getting the life you want.
Yep, and it's only uncomfortable for a set amount of time,
Totally.
a finite amount of time.
Yeah.
There's always a phrase, or I guess a story that I used to talk about when you rush a fraternity, right? You have new members. They're supposed to interview the older members, and I used to always talk to them like the beginning of college. How I see it, it's like kind of like the yellow brick road, right? At the end is the Wizard of Oz, and that's where you want to be.
Yep.
But first, you have to go through this forest and all these different like really tough settings throughout the way, and it feels uncomfortable, and you protect yourself in this little bubble. But once you step outside of the bubble, you realize it's not as bad. But you have to make sure that you have to continue going down this path, or else that bubble catches back up to you, and then you're in your comfort zone again, and you don't realize it until you get all the way to the end. So you have to constantly challenge yourself for new skills, new relationships.
Yeah.
First time challenges, first time events. I know that has something to do with like neuroplasticity and the brain rewiring itself when you put yourself into new situations and new experiences. And
Well, just growing and evolving. The minute we stop growing is when we die. So you grow until your last days. But I like that you said the Wizard of Oz, because that's from Kansas. That's my hometown. So I relate strongly to that. But every time she was scared when she met the scarecrow. She was scared when she met the lion. She was scared when she met, all of that. But the idea is that those three people became the most important people in her life.
Exactly.
And taught her a lesson every single step along the way. And so think of those as, the lion, the scarecrow, the tin man. They taught, those may be, the life challenge that you're going through. They're representative. It's a metaphor. Yeah. They're representative of something difficult in your life, but then that difficult thing ends up teaching you a lesson. So for all of us right now, it's the pandemic. And the pandemic is like the great wizard, and it's teaching us patience and self-love and, figure out where your relationships are, because a lot of relationships broke up during this time because they were spending too much time together, and it's like, well, maybe that wasn't your person. And it took a pandemic for you to see that, because otherwise you would have married the wrong person.
Yeah, this pandemic showed that there's a lot of things in society that were broken, and they've been kind of just hanging on by a thread this entire time. It's almost like once you get to the castle and you see the world as this fancy place, and then you look behind the curtain and you're like, wow, this is really what it is. Yeah. And people are really waking up to that.
Yeah. And I think I'm actually really proud of, I've always said I'm a very proud millennial, but I'm disappointed because we really didn't make as much change as we thought we did. We were trying to figure out technology and all these things as we went. I say we're the transitional generation, because everything in our life transitioned from when we were kids to adults. But Gen Z, man, they stepped up this year. They stepped up major, and they were like, we're not tolerating racism anymore. We're not tolerating hate against sexuality. We're just not dealing with it. We're not going home to Thanksgiving and hiding, our boyfriend or girlfriend from grandma, because she doesn't support, LGBTQ. Like, we're not doing that anymore. And millennials were like, yeah, we haven't been doing that either, but we weren't speaking up as, much about it because, we were living our lives. And I do have to say that, like, they picked it up and we were right there to back them up and support them. And a lot of millennials have said that.
Yep. We're a little bit more of the idealists. This is where we wanted society to go. And we vocalized, there's a lot of times, especially when you saw with the Bernie Sanders campaign, how many millennials supported him. I was one of them who also supported him. But there wasn't enough action.
That's
As you could see through the vote, there wasn't enough action.
That's it. Millennials had all these years to vote and make change. And I'm not saying that because I believe, we won't get into the whole political system and its corruptness there. But yeah, Gen Z took action. And thank goodness the millennials were there to be like, yeah, we're taking action with you because this is the world we were wanting. We vocalized, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that stuff has to change, and it's crazy to see where even the generations above us are like deciding, their opinions and how they can justify hateful actions. And we're not tolerating that anymore.
That's something important that you point out is that millennials were happy to step behind the Zoomers. I call them the Zoomers, Generation Z, and be like, we support you guys and we're going to help you. Whereas you see a lot of the older generations. Yeah. They kind of just disregard hateful actions or anything that has to do with corruption. They kind of just look the other way. And we're like, maybe we did fuck up and didn't put enough action to our thoughts, but
we're not turning our over our cheek, And that's the thing is that you can have so many people come up to you, from that generation above and say, well, I'm not racist. Well, I'm not homophobic. Okay, well, but you're not making a change when this person clearly did something racist. Well, that doesn't mean I'm racist. Yeah, but you're not helping the situation. Like, how are we going to move forward as a society if people are not held accountable for their actions? And nobody wants to get into a fight. Nobody wants to deal with it. It's not my problem. But as a society, we're all living on this planet together. Good, bad, or ugly, there's no secret door out. Unless you're Beyonce, maybe.
Or Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk. Noelle loves him. Yes, Elon Musk is the only one that can get out. But so why would you not want to participate in making the world a better place? So if you see someone doing something hateful or you hear someone say something, it can be so minor that that's the thing is people don't even realize it's happening. You go into a bakery and someone just like, oh, this is my friend, and they realize he's gay and maybe they have a look. And even that should be addressed. Make it uncomfortable, people. Yeah,
it's just like racism by ignorance more so than anything. Totally. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I had...
No, I'm not judging those people.
Yeah. Go ahead. I had Minister Stretch Sanders on here. He's the one that organized the 6,000 person peaceful protest here. He's a leader in the BLM movement. He pointed out to me that a lot of racism is by ignorance more than intention. And that's more so what the movement is trying to fight as well. Like I'm sure a lot of these police officers that are shooting Black Americans, they aren't going to work with the intention of shooting somebody.
Of course.
But they're ignorant as, you saw the one with Jacob Blake where they're like, oh, he's going to a car, he's immediately going to murder me. And so they have that ignorant thought by the way that, Cops, the TV show, had casted race and all these different media outlets. So that's more so what they're trying to target is that ignorance behind it to step up.
Absolutely. And just all of that. The whole defund the police thing, like we don't actually want, if you actually talk to a millennial or Gen Z, we're not trying to get the police to not be functional. We're trying to reform it and reteach how it is to be a police officer, right? If you've seen that meme going around where in all the other countries, it takes years and years and years and all this training.
It's like 160 hours or something crazy.
We could all go do it right now. We're entrepreneurs. We'd stick to it, right? We could become a police officer. I would not do well on the front lines. I can tell you that right now, and they should not give me a badge or a gun. But the idea is that it's here. As a police officer, when you go out and you see so many bad things all the time, your mind is already in a negative space. So you assume that when you see someone that looks a little hood, as they say, then you're going to automatically assume they're doing something bad. And that's terrible. Mm-hmm. So let's bring this back around. Therapist, life coach.
Yep.
Probably more therapist because it's a little bit more PTSD. They need to have someone on staff that they're going in and doing regular mental checks. You know, there's this show, I think it's called Billions.
Yes, I love it. Have you seen it? Yes, that's one of my favorite TV shows. With the main character is a woman, and she's one of the main characters. She's the therapist for the entire hedge fund.
Right. So Noel loves that show, and I love watching TV with him, so we watch it together. So this woman, right, the big boss guy is the one that owns the hedge fund, right? And they're making millions and millions and millions of dollars and doing stocks and bonds and all of these things, right? I don't know the whole
his name's Axe.
Yes, of course. And the woman that is kind of his right arm is the therapist, as you said, for the entire hedge fund. What does that even mean? Why does a company for stocks and bonds and people making millions of dollars need a therapist? You'd think they'd be happy all the time.
Yeah, making billions or making millions. They all go in the show too. They go in and negotiate their contract. They don't get paid. They get paid in a one lump sum, negotiating with the boss.
Right.
Can you imagine how terrifying that is?
Totally. But why do they need a therapist? You think if they're making billions, aren't they happy? Because therapy is not just for people who are unhappy. Therapy, or life coaching, as we said, is for people who need guidance. And I'm sorry, but if I am constantly dealing with the fact that I could make $1 million today or lose $1 million today, I think my mind's going to be a little bit messed up from day to day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you go in and you are dealing with somebody else's money. You're dealing with your own money in your hands. You're dealing with just high pressure situations. Your boss could get mad at you in a half a second because you made the wrong click and now you lost $5 million. So you could easily go into this office and talk to this woman, and she can help you balance out the day and just have some peace for 20, 30 minutes so you can get back to your job and do it correctly. And you don't act out of fear or anxiety or impulse. You actually calmed yourself down, changed your energetic vibration, and came back to the table and did your job correctly with the right mindset. And that's what I'm not seeing these cops do, is these cops are coming in and out, they're doing their job, they're waking up in the morning, and what if they wake up in the morning and their wife pissed them off or their kid pissed them off?
Like we said, snowball effect.
That's it. It starts there. Just as much as it starts for us, we spill the coffee on ourselves in the car, boom, a cop is the same way. He's human. So that happens, and all of a sudden he's in a bad mood. So someone speeds by him, he goes and chases after that person, now that person is getting the wrath, right? Now if he woke up on the different side of the bed, and he was happy, everything went well. Mom, wife, and kid gave him a hug and kiss. Everyone out the door, got the first coffee in line. Someone speeds past him. I'm just going to eat my donut. You know what I mean? I know it's so stereotypical, so it's terrible. That was terrible.
You got to add the Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
The Dunkin' Donuts coffee. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if people think that doesn't really happen in life, then they really have the wool pulled over their eyes, because cops act the same way that we do. And they're not just, I'm a trained professional, so I'm going to catch everyone that's speeding. No. Why does one person get caught and the other one doesn't? How many times have we stories and stories? Yeah, the cop was right there and he pulled me over and I wasn't doing anything wrong or whatever. Or I was speeding and he should have caught me and didn't. Whatever. That cop is human. So he's going to base his next action on his judgment of what he feels. And if he's having a good day, he may let you go. All right, I'm gonna let you go on a pass, man, but don't let it happen again, right? Okay, well, if he was having a bad day, let me tell you, you wouldn't get a pass, you'd get a freaking court date, and it would be the end of you.
It's pain.
Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what we need. That's not, we can't call it defund the police. We need to call it rebrand the police, fix them. Let's put some therapists in there. Let's put some life coaches in there. Let's put some people in there that can help them through all of the terrible, terrible things that they see, because I don't want to go through what they see. I don't envy them, but if they chose that lifestyle, they need to be properly nurtured and helped through their profession so that they can be the best that they can be on their job. And those things won't happen as often.
It's very true. So let's say that you're in a profession or you're an entrepreneur and you're not provided a therapist or a life coach. Mm-hmm. how do you find the right life coach? You know, like we said, that humans, we all are made up and composed of the same organic materials.
Yeah.
But there's never one size fit all. Everyone's completely different. How would you find the right one to match your way of thinking, your mentality, especially in a world now with COVID and everyone's socially distanced and spread apart? Do you just message someone? Do you kind of just stalk them on their MySpace and go back that 10 years?
MySpace. We're from Zanga to MySpace.
Yeah.
No, that's a great question. I think, start with social media. Find, there's so many, like you said, there's a lot of people doing this, and I think that's great. I don't think that the field is oversaturated. I think we need a lot of life coaches, because you're not going to match with the same person I'm going to match with, right? So how do you find that person? I would say type in life coaches on Google, type in life coaches on Facebook, Instagram. I mean, everything's searchable these days, and see what the universe guides you to. You have to start believing in energy if you really want to move forward in this new life. I can tell you that for sure. Everyone's saying, what's this new world going to look like? Yeah, it's going to be online and digital. So if you're not online, get online. Yep. But the second thing is, it's going to be energetic. And if you are someone who thinks that energy and manifesting and all of these things is woo-woo kind of stuff, you got to change that mindset real quickly, because the law of attraction works whether you believe it or not. So put out there, just when you go to bed at night, just be like, I really want to manifest someone in my life that can guide me, a mentor, a life coach. And you'll be surprised at what the little target marketing on Facebook will do for you. And it'll bring you to some people. But also, like what I do, a lot of life coaches, once you find someone, they'll do a 15-minute consultation. We call it a discovery call. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe it depends. I've even done as long as an hour with someone, just to see, if we're a good match. Because maybe this person's not a match for me.
It's true.
You never thought about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, oh, well, I need to find a good life coach that matches my energy, and can they fix my problems? But I'm thinking, I don't want to deal with someone who isn't going to do the work and is going to blame me for everything.
It's good to recognize that, and that you're not taking them all on, because that could also skew your perception of the field itself.
Totally.
And there's something that I always iterate through podcasts, is that whatever you're creating, whether it's a life coach, a podcast, or building a multi-billion-dollar business, if your intention is money, purely money, it'll show through your work.
100%.
And it'll show all the corners that you're cutting, and the effectiveness may be decent in the beginning, but it'll fizzle out really quickly.
Totally. You can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. So if someone's coming to you and says, I do want life coaching, but then through a series of questions and all these things, you realize, they're not really serious about it, and they don't want to do the work because they don't know what it takes and they're not ready. Then I don't want to take that person on who I'm constantly going to be bothering, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do this again. You have to do the work. I can't do it for you. I can only guide you through it. But I'm here. I'm here to, be that shoulder to lean on, for you to call me if you need something, but don't not do your new habit changes, fix the problem so that you can see results, and you will see results. So I'm available as well. You can call me anytime. I love doing discovery calls. I love meeting new people. I love helping people. I think it's really important that, like you said, the motivation is correct. I'm not in it to make a lot of money. That's a byproduct, that I can sustain myself doing something I love. But essentially, all the things that I've discussed with you that I've done in my career have all been because I wanted to help people do better in their lives. So this was a natural progression of just taking everything I've done together and putting it into one space, into helping people individually. I love customization too, because everyone has a different problem and a different thing. And sometimes it's not even problems, because we're like, that's where I saw the difference between therapy and life coaching. Because it's like, oh my gosh, being a therapist, like now you have to listen to everyone come in with their problems, just like you said. And it's like, so sometimes they come in with a problem in that moment, but a lot of time it's just cleaning out their life. It's finding a healthy balance. And so you're kind of tipping the scale this way, and you're tipping the scale this way, and you're trying to figure out what it is that you want. And the whole purpose around what I do is that happiness list. What makes you happy? And so how can you be sad when you're talking about working and manifesting what's going to make you happy? All we're doing is we're just taking things off the shelf that are not helping that happiness list.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So my clients and I, we're very happy. We have good conversations. We're excited. It's always moving towards a positive direction. It's not like, yeah, we deal with some heavy stuff and we, take the cobwebs down and we do the inner work, but it's all in healing. Why do you think that was? Do you feel like that is what's the baggage that's coming into your next relationship? Or why do you think that happened with your parents? Do you feel like that's hurting you here? But it's, you cry it out, you make it happen, and then you move towards the light. And the light is the good place to be, the happiness, manifesting what you want. And everything that's not helping you get there, it just needs to go.
Yep.
Goodwill it.
Minimalism is becoming more popular,
totally.
and not even just from a mental health standpoint. From the physical standpoint, I always say whatever's in your room should be close to your heart, because it literally is close to your heart,
That's
even
it.
on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of my friends and our parents are kind of the opposite. Their house is just filled
Oh my gosh.
with different antiques or,
They have
mementos, storage.
Storage is the funniest thing to me, because you're paying for a space to house your stuff that you bought.
That you never look at.
That you never, it's craziness. It's
Yeah.
craziness. So, I totally agree. We have all of our stuff right now in a version of a storage. It's a big trailer, and it's really just so we don't have to refurnish a new apartment once we get it. But we've lived without that stuff now through the pandemic for like 5-6 months. How much of that stuff do you really need?
Exactly.
You start to realize, oh, wow, I really don't use that all the time. Or I can not use it and reprogram my life to do something different. We put so much, especially in this country, 'cause it's such a commercial country. We put so much emphasis on material things. And that's not, you can't take anything from this world with you in the next life.
Except for some memories.
That's it. And love. So you need to connect with people. And that's why these conversations are so important, because this is what feeds your soul. This is what gets you to a place of enlightenment and love and sharing, and creates memories and just makes you happier. And that's the ultimate goal in life. I don't care how many fancy cars and big houses you have. That's not going to make you happy if you don't have the people to share it with and you don't make the memories with them.
That's something millennials were big on. Experiences. That's something.
Absolutely.
That's something the commercial markets hit on time and time again. You saw that replicated over
travel.
They said dozens of music festivals,
everything.
Concerts, everything like that.
And you're right. Our parents have all the stuff.
We're like, nope, I don't want it anymore. I don't
stuff.
want it. I'm not taking it with me. It's just giving me anxiety. When I walk into my parents' house, I'm just like, oh my God, there's way too much here. Like, whenever that day comes and I have to clear this house out, I'm literally just gonna throw everything away.
Totally. You're inheriting, jobs. You're inheriting things to do, not stuff that's valuable. The stuff that you're gonna keep with you is the memories with your parents, with your loved ones. But all the stuff you're gonna end up giving away. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, There's one thing also that we didn't get to touch on before we get out of here, which was your dancing, because I'm very fascinated with dancing, because I was a very reserved person for a long time. Also not really good dancer, but I started going to music festivals when I was younger, when I was 20.
Yeah.
And I actually said this on a different podcast that I was on, that I had like 4 pillars of things that have happened to me in life for different reasons. I joined a football team for health reasons. I lost a bunch of weight.
Nice.
I joined a fraternity for social reasons, helped me become a more sociable person. I started working at Omnia. It gave me a lot of finance to go and do all these entrepreneurial aspirations. And then music festivals for spiritual reasons.
Love.
Yeah. And so I began to dance in front of friends, which I'd never done before. Wow. And it really just opened my mind, and I guess my soul, on to speak too, to really just go out there and just be you, not to be reserved. And I haven't been able to replicate that feeling through anything else except for dance and maybe singing.
Wow, that literally just gave me goosebumps when you said that. Yeah, I completely agree with you. The feeling that I feel when I am dancing and I am lost in a moment with someone, not even romantically. Everyone thinks, oh, you only dance with your fiance. No, I dance with a bunch of different people, and so does he. And when we dance with each other, yes, it's an amazing experience. But when you are lost in that moment in a song, and you're just moving your body and there's no judgment and you don't feel like you have to be somewhere, and it's just you're so present. I have not found anything, and this is a PG-13 over PG-13 podcast. I have not found anything, including sex, that can allow you to be so present in that moment. Sex does that for you, but it's just different. Because you are also with another person doing that. When you're dancing, even if I'm dancing with someone else, there's this feeling of freedom that I feel that allows me to just be me. And I don't have to worry about the other person. You know, the other person is maybe leading me and I'm following, but I really feel like it's my journey. And it's incredible. So it's so awesome that you feel that, and you're not even like a professional. Like most people, to get to that level, sometimes they have to, they feel like they have to know more. But I'm like, you can feel that at any level. You just have to allow yourself to be free and don't feel like you're being judged and be scared. Don't be scared. You have to just go for it. Dancing has brought so many incredible things into my life, including my fiance. We met at a salsa club and it was like magical. I mean, it's exactly as they say. When you see someone across a crowded room, and I walked over there and was like, I think I know you. And we kind of had touched base on Facebook, and all of a sudden we were meeting in real life, and I found out he spoke French, and then we danced, and I was just like, okay, this is my husband. Done and done, like lock and key. And the journey was amazing from there. And being able to dance with someone that you love is incredible. And actually, I will give you a little sneak peek. We are we've been talking about doing this for years, of trying to because we specialize in doing wedding dances. So people who want to do a first dance for their wedding, like we actually coach them and cut their music and choreograph a whole thing for them.
That's so cool.
It's amazing, and it's just beautiful to see so much love and see two people coming together and trying to do something great and share, create a memory. But so we were at the wedding expo, and we had a booth, and we did all of that stuff. But we're just realizing, again, just the way the world is going, like we can only touch so many couples' lives and do that one-on-one in person, and everything's going digital anyway. So we've decided we are going to create some type of course that allows wedding couples, and I think the guys are going to be thanking the Lord for this, because they're always like, being dragged to the dance studios. And so I think we want to create something that people can follow, and they can do, their customized first dance, and they can send us their music and we can cut it for you, and then you follow our program and you can do something, because I think so many people want to do a first dance and they're just scared. But that's a moment that you're creating, that you can share with the people that you love, and just teaching people how to dance. Like we just want to share our love of salsa and bachata and cha-cha and all of the amazing dances that you can do. West Coast swing is one of my favorites. Like I grew up doing that dance. And so, yeah, it just, there's nothing like it. You're so right.
Yeah, it's something I'm still not even good at. I don't even know if I'll be quote unquote good at it.
When all the salsa clubs open back up again, we need to go and
please,
just come and hang out and be a part of the group.
I've gone to Latin nights out here. Yeah. I look like a fool around everyone, but I think it's more just a bonding experience on a different level, on a different wavelength. I think those first few dances, when you really like go into the crowd, whether you're at a rave, a concert, or even at a wedding, you're tearing down a lot of social constructions that have been put around you, and just like how society views, and you think that people are laughing at you when you dance when no one really is.
Nobody's even looking at you.
That's the funny part about it. You're
so right. What a great visualization to just tear apart all of the things that movies and society have told you that is happening around you. And when you go, especially in some of those salsa and swing communities, they're so welcoming, and they just want people to just join in on the fun. I think most dancers feel this way, so I can speak for them, but we wish we could pass on the joy that we're creating in that moment and just give it to people. Like, I wish I could hand it out like candy, but I can't. You have to experience it for yourself, and you have to find what is it that makes you happy. But everyone that I see that comes and they're so anxious at the beginning, and then all of a sudden they meet someone and then something happens and then it's great. And it doesn't even have to be romantic. It's just like, oh my God, and this person is like me and blah, blah, blah. And then they start dancing and they're like, wow, I got my first step. And everyone started somewhere. So did I. Like everyone, I just had a really awesome, benefit in my life where my dad was a professional. So he owned a studio and I could be trained for free. Like that's a blessing. But that doesn't mean that you can't start from zero and still have an amazing dance journey. You know, it's a journey. You don't have to make it a career.
So I think that's what the world needs right now. All the concerts are shut down. Everyone needs to free themselves.
Free yourself, dance, put on music in your house and just dance around and feel free. That's the best way you can do it right now. Take 20 minutes every single day and just put on some music and just dance around your house. Because I guarantee you movement and blood flow and all of those things is just going to help you feel less stressed. You cannot tell me after the 20, you can't be sad when you're dancing, period. You can't. So you can't tell me that after that 20 minutes of you just moving around and dancing and feeling, even if you're just crazy and you don't know how you look, nobody's looking at you. You're in your house. So you can't tell me that after that you don't feel happier. There's no way.
It's so funny that you say that, like, nobody's looking, because that same analogy or that view can be transcribed to almost anything. It's like when you're an entrepreneur and you start a business, or like even when I started the podcast, I was like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. I'm terrible at this.
Right.
But you realize in the beginning is that no one's listening.
Yeah, you're not
so
there.
You use this time to critique it.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much everything that goes for learning or going into college. And you're like, oh my God, when you're writing a essay for your teacher and she thinks this is going to be so bad. But people understand in the beginning that you're not going to be good at it. And more often than not, people are more encouraging than they are discriminatory, as you would think on like social media, where it's just like you see all these Facebook arguments, but that's really like 10 people out of like hundreds of thousands of people. So
the more successful you get, the more haters you're going to have. And unfortunately, like I was just looking at someone today, she's from Dancing with the Stars, and she has like over 800,000 followers. And she started talking for the first time about the hate that she gets. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because all the comments I see are all, she's beautiful. She's pregnant now, so everyone's happy for her and all these great things. And she posted a few of the comments, and I was like, wow, people really have the balls to take someone who's spreading so much light and joy into this world and tell her she looks gross and tell her that she quit oversharing. And I'm like, just unfollow her. Like, it's that easy. You do not have to. Why do you have to make your hate known? Do you feel better at the end of the day? Is this like a my truck is bigger than your truck kind of thing? Like, I can't stand people that are sitting in their house and they feel so powerful behind a computer. That kind of bullying and hate is why we are in the situations we're in right now with racism and LGBTQ. It's so terrible. And so that needs to stop. And those people need to be held accountable for their actions and be not belittled. I don't want them to feel the way they're making other people feel, because two wrongs don't make a right. But that can't just be brushed away, because she's like, oh, I'm very happy in the sense that I just laugh about it because it doesn't bother me. I'm like, that's great. But I'm really glad that she actually brought that to other people's attention, because it's like, even for someone like her, that's still happening.
Yeah. And even on a small scale, like you were talking about earlier, is that we need to call out a lot of these different actions that people are doing, a lot of the ignorance that's going on in the world, whether, it's discriminatory ignorance, racist ignorance.
But you don't even realize it. Like sometimes when I say small, because it's so obvious that if someone was pushing, like a white person was pushing a black person, we would all jump on that and be like, okay, what's happening here, right? That's a very easy, I don't know if it's easy, but you know what I mean? It's a very obvious thing to try and get in the middle of and make sure it doesn't go further. But if you walk into a coffee shop and you order something and someone goes, really? Yeah. And it's like, did you just judge my coffee order? Like, or even, like you decided to get a donut instead of a muffin and maybe you're a few pounds overweight and they judge you for that. Like, that kind of stuff should not be happening. And even if they're not doing it on purpose, sometimes people have these innate subconscious reactions that they don't even know they're doing. And they look at you weird and it's like, what the heck is that about? Do you know what I mean? Or you make a comment that you think is okay because you're amongst friends. And I think that's the thing, is that people get comfortable amongst friends and they say something as a joke. Let me tell you something. Everything said as a joke is usually the truth, just formulated as a joke. But they really believe that. And so the thing is that our friend circles, hold your friends accountable, people. Like, tell them, be like, oh, I'm sorry, that was not okay. Like, well, he knows, I'm just joking. I don't have a problem with him being black, but it doesn't matter. You probably shouldn't make that joke anymore. Like, Noelle and I are an interracial couple. And we, you know, when we say white and black jokes, it's not like, it's the sense of like, my dad calls our future kids little cappuccinos, you know? I think it's really cute. But the idea is that we don't want it to become a thing where it's like a stereotype or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want it to become a negative connotation. And even something that could be formulated as a joke in a friend's circle could hit home in certain areas. And also if they say it in that circle, it may slip out in another circle. And then that's just repetitive behavior that then just, again, is creating that racist environment.
Yeah, especially because everyone is on different levels. Like you said earlier, some people are peaking during this pandemic and other people are not doing well.
That's
and just how subjectivity of words is taken on such a wide spectrum that you don't really know what the other person's thinking.
Totally. Let me add to that too, just as you said that, people are doing different things in this pandemic. And I'm going to encourage people right now, don't be afraid to be separating from certain people. Like, that is so hard and it's so not even easy to say, but sometimes you just have to be like, okay, this is where our journey ends, and that's okay. And my brother and I dealt with that early on when we moved to California, because we didn't realize that mentality sometimes living over there, it's like, oh, you're friends for 6 months. And then all of a sudden that person, you never see them again. And we're like, is something wrong with us? Like, what's going on? Are we not good friends? But sometimes that's just the way things flow, you know? And I was thinking the way that Jim Carrey said, it's just the way the cookie crumbles. But especially in this time, friends specifically, because that's, you know, even if you've been friends with someone for 10 years, sometimes you need to be like, okay, listen, you've shown some sides of you right now that if you're not willing to work on, I just don't feel like I can be in your space, and I don't feel like you deserve to be in mine. And that can be said very nicely, but it needs to be said.
Yeah,
Don't beat around the bush.
And you can always circle back down the road. People change. People change over time. People change in 1 month or 2 years.
Totally. Be open. Be open to being like, listen, I just feel like right now we need to take some time from each other. And when you come back around, and I'm going to do some work on myself too. You can't point fingers always at the other person, but you need to address that so that people can be aware to make the change right now. This is the time to do it, people. Make your changes. Become self-aware and have these conversations, because if you wait and wait and wait, it's only going to get worse, and you're going to lose a lot of people in your life and you're not going to know why. So I would rather someone be in my life that says, oh, listen, this has to change now, or you're going to lose a lot more people. And I would be thankful to that person for bringing that to my attention, instead of saying, how rude are you to say that? Like, look at it as a blessing that the universe is trying to give you so that you can be a better person, so that maybe you don't end up losing that future love, you know, that's like, oh, that's the same issue I had here before, but I already fixed it, so we're good, you know? And people always say, well, what about family members? Family members just need to have a limited access to you. Like, I've done that even, you know, with my immediate parents sometimes. Like, if it gets to a point where we're not vibing on a certain topic, it's not to the extent that I want to avoid the topic, because I am the type of person that wants to talk about it and fix it. But if I just see that that person is not ready and the conversation is not going to go anywhere, we just avoid it right now. And I don't share everything with them at that time. And then slowly, when things start to shift and I see that they're changing, the access gets more and more. And, you know, we just kind of, you give what the other person's giving. If you give too much, then you're going to feel like you're being taken advantage of. And if you don't give enough, then that person's not going to feel like they have access to you. So you have to do what feels right for your mental health and your state, and not always be like, well, I don't want to be rude. Well, you not wanting to be rude is going to make you go into a freaking crazy town. And that's not good. You have to take care of yourself so that you can help others. And that person is going to thank you, because they're going to realize what's happening here. And don't leave them in the dark. Don't just ghost them. But just tell them, listen, right now, I just feel like we're not on the same wavelength, and we need to just maybe not share as much with each other, and maybe call each other once a week or once a month. And that's okay. And if they don't understand that, then that's clearly why you're giving them space.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. You know?
Yeah, I'm going to say this that I say probably every podcast, and I think the listeners probably know what I'm about to say, but the pandemic is the best rebranding opportunity we're going to get in a long, long time. So
probably in our lifetime, for sure.
So work on yourself and find some life balance. And that life is interchangeable. That is compromised of social, health, friendships, workflow, everything.
All of it.
So before we get out of here, I always ask 2 questions on the way out. Same questions. First question is, the year's 2030. What does the landscape of Christine Barr and all of your affiliate companies look like?
That's a great question. Finally happily married.
Hey, snaps to that.
That'll happen next year. So we'll have been married for almost 10 years at that point. Probably at least a kid or 2. And honestly, just being happy, just finding peace, not caring, about what other people think about what I'm doing or whatever. And just, and I want to be giving back a lot. We're looking into doing, some more humanitarian work. And I really want to dive deeper into the sustainable living, like I was talking about, like the sustainable farming and all of those types of things, and really giving back to some of our countries. Noelle's from Haiti. That country, could use a lot of our help, and we really want to start giving back. So I really want to be diving deep in the next 5 years to doing a lot of humanitarian work.
I like that. And last question is, what does Las Vegas mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. Las Vegas is a beautiful city. Just like any city, it has its ups and downs and weaknesses and all of these things, but it has so many beautiful things. It's a melting pot of love and life and creativity and culture. And I moved here when I was lost, 6 or 7 years ago, 2014. I had just started a new business, and I was looking for opportunity and love and excitement. And I found all of that. And I think right now I just want to be a global citizen of the world and want to be that digital nomad and travel. But I think that Vegas will always hold a special place in my heart because I found my love here. And I finally found a place outside of where I grew up that made me feel like home. And it has the soft side, the suburb lifestyle, and it has the exciting side on the strip and all of the shows and everything. Some of the best food I found, and it's just fantastic. Great weather. I mean, sometimes it can get really hot, but for the most part, it's great weather all around. We don't have all the crazy earthquakes and hurricanes and all of those things that everyone else is dealing with. So prayers for them.
Yeah, we're freed of that. We're just a little oven at times.
Yeah, we're a little bit of an oven, but that's okay. We like warm cookies, right?
Hey, one of my friends actually went out and put a cookie baking sheet in his car with cookies on it. And actually made cookies.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
They were a little soft in the middle, but we ate them.
That's awesome. Oh my God, too funny.
Where can everyone get connected with you and your social media accounts?
Yeah, so add me on Facebook. That's where all of my stuff is connected. So my podcast, Today Over Tea, is on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And then Love to Voyage is my travel brand with my fiance, and it's a lot of love and travel and dancing, all fun things.
The videos are amazing, I have to say. I've watched quite a few of them before this, and we didn't even get to touch on that. But I recommend you guys go take a look. Because,
Thank you.
I think that their dancing skills and love is exemplified very.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's been a really awesome project that Noelle and I have done together, Love to Voyage, and it's really beautiful, the kind of stuff we've been able to create through it. So we have our YouTube channel, and then of course we're on Instagram, and we're thriving on TikTok right now. So join us for all the craziness there. And then my personal brand is Christine Barr, and my married name will be Christine Barr Noel, which is what I'm doing my life coaching on. And you can add me on Facebook as Christine Barr, BAR, and you can see all my links there. And email. I don't know what else to give. I would love to, if anyone wants to reach out, if they really want some help or anything like that, you can email me at info@christinebarnoel.com. And I would be happy to help anyone that wanted to even just do a discovery call. If they're feeling lost, like I've been there, I really have. I've been where I just feel like I just needed someone to talk to, and I needed to reach out to someone that could guide me either in business and personal life and anything. And if that's you and you relate to that, like please reach out to me either on Facebook or email. I'd be happy to at least have a discovery call with you to see if we can gain some clarity.
Yeah, I'll be sure to tag everything in the show notes.
Yeah.
And also You guys should download her free book, Back to Balance.
Oh, my
I believe it's
ebook.
called. Yeah, the ebook was really cool. 7 steps.
Thank you.
A really nice read. So
I appreciate that.
Go and do that, which I'll tag everything down there. But thank you for coming on to the show. This is amazing.
Thank you so much.
This is amazing. You guys, if you've made it this far, make sure that you go over to Today Over Tea, because we're going to be recording an episode as well right after this. So if you want to get a double dose of us, be sure to go over there. So thank you for this. This was amazing.
Thank you, Jake.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.